So hello, good evening and welcome. This time we're taking a digital asset management deep dive with Pixave. Now, for those who don't know me, I'm Elaine Giles, long-time trainer, podcast host, inveterate geek. My YouTube channel is where you'll find tips, tricks and full training sessions for a huge range of apps. But as I say, it's Pixave tonight. Back to this session and Pixave. And I have already heard from several of you that you're either keen to try it or telling me that you bought it a while back and you'd like to learn more about what it can do. So let's do just that tonight. Right, doubtless you've got visions of a perfect system to manage all your digital assets. Digital asset management. And I don't mean just photos, but everything that you need for your digital designs. And I'm pretty sure, despite all your good intentions, the reality probably is your system isn't all it could be. I know mine isn't. That's where Pixave comes in. It brings organisation to your existing files. Instead of random folders full of files that you've used to try and categorise your content, your assets, this allows you to create an organised system within Pixave. So this is what Pixave looks like on the Mac. And as you can see, you've got that sidebar on the left-hand side. You have an area that you're going to work in on the right-hand side. It can do an awful lot. So we will be going in and we will having a look at that. But recently there was an iPad version released as well. And we have a whole session dedicated to the iPad version. If you're watching live, it's tomorrow. And if you're watching the recording of this, check my channel and you'll find the recording of the iPad version there as well. Now, as you can see from just those two images, you can use Pixave for photos, artwork, logos, icons, source files, and much, much more. The fantastic news is there's no subscription required. Because if you're coming to this from Adobe, you'll be painfully aware of the Adobe subscription. I've just got my renewal notice. It doesn't tell me how much it is. It tells me that the price has gone up, but it doesn't tell me how much it is. So I'm really enjoying that. Not. So currently it's £14.99, $14.99 for Mac and $7.99 for iPad. And it is, as I say, an outright purchase. So to download it, you need to go to the Mac App Store. You will find it in there. That image was taken today and it is saying $14.99. So hopefully that's not changed. And as I said, it supports a huge range of files. But you know, a lot of these apps say that. What does that actually mean to you? How many files? Let's have a look at some of the files it supports. Well, it has support for some files from the Adobe Creative Cloud applications. So for me, what was important was Photoshop and Illustrator. It supports both of those. What's actually more important for me, because my current photo editor, despite the fact I pay an exorbitant fee to Adobe, my current favourite is Affinity Photo. It's an awesome application from Serif Software. It saves me a ton of time when I'm working. And of course, Pixave supports Affinity Photo files. It also supports Affinity Designer files, which is my vector editor of choice at the moment. Also supported is Pixelmator. And if you're watching this live-ish, live or within a couple of weeks, there is a new version of Pixelmator on the way. It also supports sketch files, which was a very, very important application for me and remains so for UI and UX developers. Unfortunately, that is also subscription, but I have a range of sketch files that I'm trying to transport over to Affinity Designer. But in the meanwhile, I need to see them and I need to work with them, and Pixave allows me to do that. There's also a range of other applications supported. So Autodesk Graphic, this was known as iDraw. So you may go back a long way and remember it as iDraw. Well, it supports that as well. In fact, here's the range of file formats that are supported. So a huge range of file formats to go at, including, you'll notice there, pages, numbers and Keynote. So it's not just design assets. It can be other assets as well. Now, in terms of you understanding what it can do before you even see it, well, comparisons. There are 4 applications here that I've drawn comparisons between. So first of those is Adobe Bridge. If you've any idea or you've ever used Bridge, it's an asset management system. It comes from Adobe. It's part of the Creative Cloud suite of applications. And it allows you to manage your files. Well, Pixave is very, very similar to that. Now, if you don't use that, maybe you work a lot with photos and you use Lightroom. Well, a lot of the concepts that you will understand from Lightroom in terms of having groups of images and using tags and rating images, all of that is available in Pixave too. Maybe you don't use either of those. Maybe you use Apple Photos. And again, in Apple Photos, you have tags and you have ratings and you can group images together. So again, Pixave does that. Now, it could be that you've used Aperture in the past, Apple Aperture, which unfortunately is no longer with us. But again, if you think in terms of how Aperture used to work with ratings and tags and the way to organise images, that's exactly what Pixave can do. Difference is, in terms of looking at those four, is the file formats that are supported. So for me, it's actually better because I get a broader range of file format support. But that's enough of me talking about it. Let's go in and actually have a look at it and spend the next hour or so going through all of the features in Pixave. Right, so at the moment, I don't even have Pixave running, but I have done a little bit before we go in. So what we'd say in the UK is I have done a Blue Peter here. I have done at work already. Now, what I've got here is my real library, my real Pixave library. I don't have too many collections in it. I'm building it up as I go. And if you're anything like me, you'll be quite reticent to put a lot of stuff in there because you'll be thinking, I need to make sure that I can get the stuff out that I put in there. And that's why I've been very careful with it. Prior to using Pixave, I actually used iPhoto for some of the things I can show you tonight. So this is the Pixave interface. And just to take it from the top up here, you have your library, and it allows you to view the elements within your library, either all of them. So this is all the stuff I've got in my library, via the tags in your library, of which I've put in 3 test tags. I'm not big on using tags, to be honest, but I will come back and we will look at that. You can look at them via colours. It brings up some colours. And yes, I can tell just by glancing at those colours that I have a lot of elements in my library that include those colours. If you're with me live, and I'll stop around there. Can you remember anything that would have been that colour? Recently, not too long ago. What I've got in here are some posters. So these kind of turquoisey colours, and moving down, these pinky purpley colours feature quite heavily in there. So that's the colours that I have available from the stuff that's in my library. I also have in here files that I've used recently. These are ones I've added recently. And I've got stuff that I've thrown in the trash, and heaven knows what I've put in there, so I'll leave that alone, but that's where they are. Now, in addition to that, we have this heading of collections. Now, you'll notice there is collections, but there's also your collections, and the two of those are very different. The collections are pre-built. So if I open that, so there's a show and hide toggle there, and I had that turned off. But if I hide it, you can see that they are collections based on the type of image. So they're screenshots from the iPhone, from tablets, web captures, icons, buttons, interfaces, all sorts in there. So let's have a look what it can do. Well, first of all, I'm going to click on PDF. And the files that it has found are actually PDFs. The format of those is PDF. To be absolutely certain, if we hover over that, you can see it actually says PDF. So it gives you an indication of what the file format is in the top right-hand corner of each thumbnail. If I go back to all, you can see, let's go back in there, we now have PNGs. That's a PNG. There's the PDF. Do we have anything but that? Oh, I'm keen on my PDFs, aren't I? Oh, there's a TIFF there. There's a TIFF. So you can see it supports all these different file formats, as I said. Right. So these are the collections that are built in there. So we have documents and fonts and all sorts. Now, you might want to look at just the PDFs that you've got, but you also might want to have your own collections where you organise things in your own way. So I've created some collections, only as we look at these, they're not actually collections. These are top level folders. So you have at the very top level of your organisation folders. And as I open these, you can see within my MacBytes folder, I have 2 collections. And I'm just going to let you see that the top level folder is actually an icon representing a folder. And then underneath that, you have a different type of icon, and that is a collection. And the contents that you add to your Pixave library go into the collections, and the collections go into folders for organisation purposes. Right, so I'll open up the next one, which is personal branding, which is all my stuff for sidebars and watermarks and idents for my videos and all kinds of stuff. So basically all my things. But the one that I find most useful, unless I'm editing the podcast, in which case I'm in the MacBytes folder, is this resources one down here. And this has what I'm generally working on, or more importantly now, things that I need access to when I'm making presentations or other content. So give you an idea of what I've actually got in here. I have posters, so I'm going to make those smaller. You see, I can change the size of the thumbnail. I have posters for all of my events, and I have to have them in different sizes. This is that blue I was talking about. As I go down there, there's quite a lot of them, isn't there? There's a whole range of posters in there. They were all for, I think there's 2 events there, Affinity Designer 101 and Affinity Designer 102. And in terms of the file formats, we have PNG again, but I also have JPEGs in here, and I've got PDFs as well. So different file formats there. But I also have things that I need when I'm making a presentation. So tonight, for instance, I have my Pixave icon that I've put on lots of the slides. You'll also have seen there was the Photos icon, there was a Pixelmator icon, there was Pixelmator Pro icon, which has now changed. We saw the Sketch icon, and there was the Graphic icon. This is where I keep them. Now, for years, I've had them organised in some way or another, because there's nothing worse than making a presentation and then desperately needing the icon and having to go away and find it. So I've always had some kind of organisation. But the huge benefit of now doing this inside Pixave is everything that you see in here, all of these assets that I have in here, are synchronized up to my library in the cloud and accessible via Pixave on my iPad. I'll let you think about that. If you're not excited, let me enlighten you. It means that on my iPad, I've now got iOS 11, I can do split screen view. We will actually see this tomorrow in the iPad session. But it means I can have Keynote on one side, Pixave on the other, and I can add these icons to my slides on my iPad. That's a complete game changer for me. That means I'm going to use it on my desktop much, much more, because I know anything I do on my desktop will ripple through and I can work on my iPad. So I have other icons available in here as well. So general Mac apps, not just design. I've got my Office icons. I do a lot of work on Office. I also have what I call presentation assets. And I'll zoom in so you can see those a little bit bigger. What they actually are is a background for when I'm working on presentations to do with Keynote, numbers or pages. And I have assets like these as well, which says shadow offset. What on earth are these? Make much more sense if I show you by double clicking and zooming in. It's something that I put at the end of a presentation to ask if there are any questions. And it means that I have access to it. I don't need to remember what file format it was in, what folder I put it in. It's with my presentation assets. And how I got to that was to double click on it. That's another one that I have, which is a replay icon. So if I'm saying to them there will be a replay available, I will use that and I will add it to my slide. And all I'm doing to go in and actually view these things is double clicking on them. And that's taking me in and giving me a fantastic preview. So that's what I've got in my library. There's my signature as well. Let's just have a look at that. Yep, barely legible, but there you go. I have that in there as well. We'll be coming back to my signature later. But that is my live library. That is all I have in it at the moment because I'm building it up. But I'm making sure as I do build it up and I go through it that it's beneficial to me, that I'm not going to spend any time looking for stuff, hunting around for stuff. Don't want to do that. Now, I said that this was my real library, and it is. It really is my real library, and I'm using this to actually show you the interface. So we've seen the sidebar, we've seen the content. So when I click on a folder, it shows me everything belonging to the collections inside the folder. If I click on a collection, it shows me everything that's inside a collection. Now, once I choose something, so let's choose that one there, which isn't great because you can't see it too well, can you? Let's try the show art. That's better. You can actually see it. Right, that's an image that I've selected. Once I've selected it, over on the right-hand side, you can see all of the information about that image. And these will fold up. So if you're not interested in one bit, you can fold it up. I'll leave them both open. It gives you a kind. So it tells you what kind of image it is, and it's saying phone. Now, actually, it's not. But given the fact of where these came from, I'll forgive it, that one. But this is where I can actually say what that is. So is it a part of a screen? Is it from a tablet? You know, what categorization would make sense for me? To be honest, it isn't really any of those. It's probably other, because it's a PNG, so I don't want it in PDFs. It's not really wallpaper, it's not a button, it's not web use, it really is other. So I can change the kind of it in there. If I then go into my collections and I click on other, so where's my other? Are you in here? Oh, you're not, are you? No, they're my only collections. I don't have that. But what I can do is show you, if I change this one to be, let's find one that we do have. Shall I put it in watch? There should only be one in watch, shouldn't there? And there it is. So that does actually work. You change the kind of it and it will appear in your collection. Apart from other, which doesn't have a collection. I should remedy that, shouldn't I? So let me go back to my show art in here. I changed that to watch, but actually it should be other. I can also apply ratings from in here, labels from in here, all sorts of stuff, which we'll come on to look at. I'm not deep diving this at the moment, just showing you the interface and what you can do with it. Now that's at the top, that's the information, but you can also in here apply tags. Now one tag that would make sense with this one would be MacBytes, and I'll show you working with the tags shortly. And the last thing you have is metadata that you can read about that file as well. So you have these over in this info panel on the right hand side. You've already seen me change this slider at the bottom to change the size of the thumbnails, and it is only changing the thumbnails. It's not having any effect on the original images. They're staying exactly the same size as they were. What else have you got along the bottom here? You can go down to here and you can start creating new collections and things. So that's what that is at the bottom. We'll look at that in a minute as well. And we've got these options in here as well. So you can sort in many, many different ways, including, importantly for me, a manual sort. So again, we will look at that. You can, with this one here, send your files out. So you can send them out as files. You can create an EPUB or you can print them. You've got this one here, which hooks into the system. So it's your share sheet at system level. And I only have those 3 items in my share sheet. So you could use that as well. And this toggle here toggles off that info panel on the right-hand side. Now, for the sake of completeness, there's a couple more options that really does relate to the interface, which is this one right at the top, which is called Pixave Mini. And when I click that button, it shrinks Pixave down and allows you to wander around and collect items by dragging and dropping them into the collections. So it gives you a mini view, but you can see the rest of your screen to add items to it. And you might think, would I want to use that? Well, here's an example of how that would work. I have a folder full of a whole range of items here. Now, I have in the MacBytes folder, up here, a collection called Show Art and Credits. And I have within here, which is just a random collection of files, it couldn't be more random, I have this file, which is called Dithering Knits. Don't ask. It's the Show Art for MacBytes 107, and really it should be in the Show Art folder. And all I need to do is drag and drop it up there and it will import it. Simple as that. I then hit the cross. That takes me back to the full view of Pixave, and there is, as described, one Dithering Knit, which is now part of the Show Art and Credits collection in there. Now that's just one way to add things. Before I do any more of that, I'm going to show you libraries. So having seen the entire interface, the only 2 other elements is your search option here, which will allow you to search. So when you click the magnifying glass, it allows you to search the titles. So let's say we were, let's go up to the entire library, but in the search, I'm going to put knits. Bit dangerous, isn't it? And there is my Dithering Knits. So it gives me the results in the lower right hand side, and I just select the one I want and it shows me it in context on the left hand side, which is in the Show Arts and Credits collection. one other button, just one lonely little button left, which is this one here, which is capture a web page, which again we will see very soon, but it actually converts the whole of the interface into a web browser, and it will allow you to capture a web image. So we'll come back to that. That's just to show you what the button does. Right, the next thing to do, I've shown you my library with my folders and my collections. Now that library lives in iCloud. If I bring up the properties here, and these are the tabs at the properties at the top, so start off with general, but I'm going to library, you can see that this library is in iCloud. The library itself is called Pixave. That's really just because it's the first one I created, but you can have multiple libraries. So it might make sense for you to call your library something related to what the library contains. So let's say you decide that you're going to do a photographic archive from the year you got your DSLR camera, which in my case was 2006. So I might decide to do one by year. Maybe I want it by camera. You can have one big library or as many small libraries as you want, completely up to you, depending on how you would choose to work with it. So mine's called Pixave and iCloud Sync is turned on. That's what the toggle there is for. So that's just showing you where this library is stored. Now, that is not where I switch to another library or create another library. That's just giving me information about the library I actually have open. Now, just before we started, I made another library. And if you go to File, Switch to Library, you can switch to a different library. So I'm going to click that, and that gives us this dialog box here. I will just close that window so it's not distracting from it. And it's saying that we have two libraries on iCloud. There is Pixave, which is my current default. That's the one I've got open. It even gives me a little summary of my library at the bottom. It says that it's an iCloud Pixave. It's got 17 collections, 3 tags, and 271 media items. So it gives me a little preview of that. This library, you can see it was literally about an hour and 10 minutes ago. I created this library and uploaded it to iCloud. This one's got no collections, no tags, no media. So I made it very simple for myself. It is a completely new one here. So that's the one I want to open. I'm going to open that other library. So all I need to do is choose it from there. It will close down Pixave and then reopen it with the second library open. And obviously this one doesn't have any content at all. So the built-in collections are all there. There won't be anything in them, but they're all there. And your collections is available, but I haven't yet made any. Not done that yet. So it's telling me there's no collection selected, which is right. There isn't. There's no media in there either. But we've seen that we can add media in various ways. So let's have a look at importing content. That's a great place to start once you've got the interface under your belt. So I'm going to move this so I can open up that window again, which gives us some content. And this really is random stuff. It was picked on the basis of showing you different file formats. That was the only rationale for picking half this stuff. So I literally just grabbed files. They are real files. They're not demo files. They are real files. As you've seen, that dithering knits, it's a real file. Now what I'm going to do is just drag and drop one of these. This happens to be a Keynote file. And I'll drag and drop it in and you'll see, didn't like that, did it? What's wrong? If you're here live, what's the matter? I'm trying to drag and drop it. Won't have it. Not told it yet where to start. Come on, give it a chance. Let's add a folder. This is going to be, if you remember my top folder, it was MacBytes. Well, let's have a folder here. Let's say I'm going to say presentations. I would like all my presentations in here. Now I've got a folder, I've got this in the middle, which is saying to import. You can now click the import button, but I can also drag and drop. So now, technically, my drag and drop will work. So let's give that a go this time. Let's drag and drop. Didn't like that either. What's going on here? Now, if I drag it over there, it will. Now, you might be thinking at this stage, I've gone right off this. But don't. Look what it did. It didn't just add it, it added a collection. Because I dragged it over the folder, it knew it needed to create a collection, because a collection is where your content lives. It doesn't live in the folders, it lives in a collection. And that's why dragging and dropping it into that folder in the middle, which didn't have a collection, didn't work. That's what the problem was. So let's prove that point. That happens to be one presentation. Let's go and try and find another presentation. I know there are some in here. Now look what happens. As I drag and drop that in, I get the plus, and it will let me drag and drop it to the middle. So there is a rationale there. There is a complete rationale for what's happening. But if you don't understand it, it's very easy to get incredibly frustrated. Okay. So I've got my two presentations in there. What I haven't done, I've left this called Untitled Collection. That's not great. So I'm going to click on there and I will put there training. So I'm naming my collection. And as it happens, there is just two presentations in it. Now at this stage, you might think, oh, great. Now I know where I'm going. I'm going to start creating multiple folders and all kinds of stuff. And I'll do it over here. So a new folder. And let's put, maybe spreadsheets or data for a business. I'll make another MacBytes folder. But before you start thinking about that, go back to what you've got. And what I've got here is a complete nutter mess. There's no organisation there, and they're not tagged and they're not rated, and there's some in zip files that have been unzipped. It's a mess, which is pretty much, I'm suspecting, what your folder might look like. Right, well, let's have a look what we can do in here before we start building up a structure over on the left-hand side. I've got this MacBytes folder here. I'm going to change that. I'm just going to call it assets. And that way it makes sense when we bring everything in. And I will make a collection. So I can go over here and say new collection. And this is also assets, but I'm going to put imported assets. And that way I'll know that I just dragged and dropped them in. And I can drag and drop as many of these as I want. Now, what will happen, so I'm just going to drag these. Let's make sure I've got everything from the top down, but I've got some extras left. Just to show you, I'm just going to drag and drop and they will go into imported assets. And what happens is it takes a little bit of time as it imports them. But I think that was probably around maybe a gig, something like that. Not too much content. A few meg, not too bad at all. And you can see it's actually brought those in. Now, instead of just having PNG, it's actually got a little icon telling you these are Affinity Designer files. That's a PDF, that's a PNG, but that one is an Affinity Designer file. So underneath it says Affinity Designer, and you also have that icon telling you it's Affinity Designer. That one is a sketch one, and that one is a sketch one. This is a progression of me through the years, right? Which is, in 2015, I was using Sketch, and in 2016, I was using Sketch. But this year's poster is actually in Affinity Designer. These icons are from Sketch. That started life in Sketch. It didn't end up in there, but you get the idea. You can see that I'm bringing files in just by dragging and dropping. You will also have noticed when I had a new collection. So let's make another new collection. I'll call that new collection. Oh, let's be adventurous with it. Right, new collections. You can drag and drop, but you've got this import button. You'll notice once you've got content, I go over here and find something else. So there's my chapter markers. I can still drag and drop. Import button's actually disappeared. Now, don't crash on me. Don't do that. No, there you go. That's a big file. That's the problem with it. It's a sketch file and it's a huge file. But if I wanted to use the import button, I can do that in here. It takes me to my desktop, which is where I want to be. There's all my stuff. And I could start importing things. So I have, let's bring these in. Let's go up to Pixave 2 and do that. And it will bring those files in. I don't think any of those are massive, so they should just load in. Now we've got a whole range of different files. We've got an Affinity Designer. We have a sketch file. We've got a movie file. We've also got an Illustrator file. And you'll notice that when I said that it didn't end up there, it didn't end up in Sketch. It's actually gone into an Affinity Designer now. So a whole range of different files imported into yet another collection. Still no organisation here, but I'm not panicking yet. Obviously, the MacBytes stuff should be in MacBytes, and this video and the bird should be together because they're for a specific project. But we're still importing at this stage. We're still importing. So I've got those in up to there, I think. Yep, that's where I've got to. I've also got these other files here. So I'm choosing all of the files. And what I'm going to do is just drag and drop them all in together into there. And this is how I would build up a library. Now you'll see this one says you've already imported this. What do you want to do? Well, I don't actually want duplicates in my library. That would make no sense to me. So I'm going to say don't import that one. It's already in there somewhere. Now we've got files that are, again, Affinity Designer. There's a PDF in there. There's another Affinity Designer. But we've also got, in addition to the Keynote files we had, we've now got numbers and we've got pages. So they're in there as well. I know that doesn't look like a numbers file, but you trust me on that. It is. We'll open it shortly. Prove the point that it is. So we've imported those. But back in here, there's other things that I haven't yet imported. So I've got some magazine mock-ups there. I'm going to drag and drop those in. Those are Photoshop files. And there they are at the top. So it's imported all of those. Got some other stuff as well. I've got some mobile mock-ups here. I think they were all Photoshop. And you can see some of these are quite large. Not greatly large, but no, I don't want to do that. I want to drag into there. So don't drag over a thumbnail. It thinks you want to change the thumbnail. But what's happening as well, you've got to think about this library. It's in iCloud. It's synchronizing to iCloud as well. So as we go. So there's, let's have a look at some of those. They are Photoshop files. You can see those. So we added quite a lot of those. Now, I have one more thing here, which is I've got blurred backgrounds, which is already in a folder. And they are just JPEGs. So they're just a range of blurred backgrounds that I use for various things. And they're in a folder. So I'm going to drag and drop that over here. So notice the difference between dropping it in there and dropping it in here. If you're wondering what that difference is, when I let go, look what it did. It created a collection and named it the same as that folder. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. While it struts its stuff, I will show you over here that I also have another folder. Oh, don't disappear on me now. There it is, Pixave 2. These are some images that I've downloaded from Pixave. I call them Pixave 2 for a reason. I'm now renaming them Pixave. Right, what I've got in this folder is some images that are just in the root of the folder, and I also have folders in here. And they do have in them what they're supposed to have in them. So they've got animals in them. In the animals folder. Got to have a cute cat, haven't you? And in the landscapes, we've got some landscapes. So I've semi-organised them in my way. Not completely, because in my food folder, I've got two gorgeous things of fruit. But outside my fruit folder, my food folder rather, I have an image that is food and should be in there. Okay. So, I've started organising it, haven't we all? But never finished it. So what I need to do is not lose the work I've already done. I want to take this in, but I don't want to lose that work. And we now know that if I drag that over to this side, it will import a structure for me. And that's exactly what it's done. It's created a folder called Pixave, based on the name of the folder I dragged and dropped in. And it's created 4 collections. But just a minute, I hear you saying. There were only 3 folders. There was animals, food and landscapes. And we do have animals, food and landscape. That's right. But it made another one called Pixave. Now the reason it did that was assets can't live in a folder. And these images were in the root of the Pixave folder. So what it did was create an extra collection and put the contents in there. So again, just a little something it does that may confuse you, but it's not confusing if you actually know what it's doing. So my fruit, I'd put in the food folder. Oh, jelly beans, that can go in food as well. So I'm going through my Pixave folder thinking where these things need to be. And my asparagus and my fruit and my salad, they need to go in the food as well. And this is how you start organising it. This one and this one and this one and that one as well. All of those, they're really landscapes. So they go in the landscape one. So I'm starting to organise. These can go with the animals. I may well end up with things. I mean, that's a strawberry, so it can go in food. That's an animal, can go in animals. I may well end up with things that don't really fit. So I've got those two there that could fit in landscapes, but these two don't fit. They're not food, they're not animals, and they're not landscapes. If I wanted to keep them, I could just call this general, or I can leave it as Pixabay. Really doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. It's completely up to you. But you saw how quickly I was able to reorganize all of that content, whereas trying to do that in this view, in the view in my Finder, I'd have to go off maybe the title of it, if I was lucky enough that it had a title. You know, if that was just by numbers, IMG123, not helpful. I could, of course, use my spacebar and quick view it all, but it's all time consuming and you've not got time for this. So it's much, much faster to do that in there. Right, that was getting content into it with drag and drop, and we use the import button as well, but you're not limited to that. Oh no, you're not limited to that at all. You have other options to be able to add content. So I'm going to go to, let's go to my new collection. I know I've got a load of stuff in there, but that's good. It's good that we can see a lot of content. Now, the second way to get things in there that are not actually assets that already exist, even better than that, these don't already exist. You're going to make assets. Up here, you will notice my menu bar is very tidy, apart from that notification icon that needs to be there. But next to it, that is the Pixave icon. And when I click on it, which I can do, but I can't see my mouse pointer, there we go. Right, it will allow you to capture from your computer. So let's have a look at that. Let's capture an area. So when I capture an area, Pixave disappeared on the left there. Hopefully it will come back. I draw around an area that I want to select and just release the mouse button. It will add it, and there it is. I'm double clicking that so it opens it and we can actually have a look at it. It has added it to it. So that's one way to do it. And as you saw, there was up there, capture an area, capture a window, a timed window, a full screen, or a timed full screen. Now, what does timed mean? Well, let's say I want to do we'll do a timed full screen. It gives me a chance to open up stuff before I actually take the capture. And now it's taken the capture and it has added it to that there. So it gives you a little bit of time to set things up. That's fantastic for capturing menu bars, because once you've activated a capture, it will take it. You haven't got time to go and get the menu bar. So great for menu items for that one. Right, let's go back there. So that's another way of adding it. That's choosing screen capture. But you're not limited to even screen capture as well. You have another option, and we have actually seen it briefly, very briefly. And we're just going to take that full screen so we get a better view. And it was this button here that allowed you to capture a web page. And I'm going in. It's loading up a site of mine called Map Bytes Learning. And what it's actually doing is showing me that in a very special way. That is not really what that site looks like if we were to go and visit it. To prove that point, let's go and visit it. I will go get that in another browser. And you're giving me all sorts of things that aren't Map Bytes Learning, but never mind. Let's have a look at it in a browser. So I'm going to bring that over here, go full screen with that. It's thinking about it. That's it there. So that is over on the right-hand side. That get the most from your Mac, and that's not where it is in there. As I scroll down, you can see all of these thumbnails. That's moving as well, and I've got more thumbnails, etc. So that's what it looks like in a browser. Doesn't look like that. That's because up here, this is amazing. I can pretend to be looking at it on different devices. And at the moment, I'm looking at it on an iPad. The one that's pushed in is an iPad. And that's why it's giving me that view. And I don't see all of the menu. I see the burger menu. I can go to this one here and click on that. That one, if I hover over it, is an iPad Pro. That's showing me the full menu. That's showing it me more like a desktop. But it is still limited in the width it's taking. If I click on the last one, which is desktop, it fills it. Now it's acting just like a browser. And you get to capture that by just clicking that icon there, which is the camera icon. So as I click it, it says preparing, and it has now imported it. To see it, I'm going to go back, and there is the entire page. Not just the bit I could see. No, it's the entire page. I will zoom in, and as I do, you can see I'm not even at 100% yet, nowhere near. I'm at 50 odd, 60 odd, there we go. And you can scroll up and down that. So it captures an entire scrollable page Love that feature. But it's not just that it can capture that. Let's go back to it. Same page, but I'd like to maybe capture that website to put on one of my mock-ups. You know, the mock-ups that you've already seen of the phones? So I need it to look like it does on a phone. I don't just want to scale down what the desktop looks. And that is what these other options are for. So I have an iPhone 6 Plus there as an option. That is what it would look like on there. I have a 6 rather than a Plus. I have an iPhone 5 and a 4S. I'll leave it set to a 6 Plus. I think the one I've got is a 6 Plus. And I will click that. So my mock-up contains a 6 Plus or a 7 Plus, and they're both the same. So let's go back and make sure it's grabbed that. It has. And again, that one looks very, very different. So I'm going to take that up to 100%. And you can actually see it. There we go. Now I can use that in any way I need to. And I've created it inside Pixave. Going back to that again and choosing an iPad here. So that's an iPad mini. I can also choose to see it in landscape view. And what happened up here, I don't know if you noticed that, it actually flipped those two devices around. If I go over to landscape and toggle that off, it's not flipped the icons, has it? Oh dear, you should do. You should definitely flip the icons, that'd be cool. Okay, but you can flip that and take that as you will. So let's take that as the last one. Let's take that as the last image there. And back in here. Now, that was one of the capture options, which is the web capture to use Pixave for it. But you're not even limited to that. Let's go and get Safari. I am opening up Safari. I have my MacBytes learning site in Safari, and I've actually installed the Pixave extension for Safari, which has just sprung to life, which is that one there next to 1Password. That is the Pixave extension. So, same site, hit the option, and it brings me up this window. Now, it can do exactly what you've already seen me do, which is there is a button over there to capture the entire web page. Mindful of time and how much really exciting stuff I've got to show you, I'm not going to do that again, but that's what it would do. It would capture the entire page. But look what's happened in the middle. Wow. It's actually gone through the page and it's picked out all of the individual graphics, and they are there for me to choose which ones I would like to add. What I'm actually adding here is I'm going to select the images that I want from this web page without drawing around them, without trying to save the page and extract them from an archive, just by selecting the ones I want. So I want the blue iPhone. We will have the screen save one. Oh, we've already got the Affinity one, so we don't need that. But let's have some of these Affinity Photo ones and the ScreenFlow ones. And all of these, it will take all of those. I'm holding down the Command key as I make a selection. And you'll see I get a red border around each of these. Might as well have these as well, just for good measure. All right, let's take all of those. Now, if I wanted to import all of them, I've got an import all button, but I didn't. I didn't want some of these at the bottom. I didn't want that black background for a start. But having selected the ones you want, 25 of 32, which it tells you in the middle, just hit the import option. It says, do you want to allow this page to open? I certainly do. And what is happening now is it's downloading just those image files, not the rest of it, just what I wanted, and it's putting them in my new collection. And they are coming down as we speak. So they should appear in here. They will at the moment. Let's have a look how we've organised this. I can't actually do that until it's imported. I think at the moment they're in alphabetical order because things are moving around. I'm guessing they are alphabetical order. But as I said, you can control that. You can completely control that. And here it goes. It's importing them. It's also, as it does it, categorising the colours. So if we look at this one here, you can see over on the right-hand side, it's picked out the most dominant colours in all of these images as well. So it's doing that as it goes through. So there's a nice jeans colour there and a pinky colour. It's doing all of that as it goes. Right, so we've got lots of ways that we can import stuff. That's probably enough, isn't it? Let's actually start doing something with what we've imported now. Okay, we've looked at folders which contain collections. And I've said that you can have folders containing the collections. The collections contain the actual assets. Now, we have some that are MacBytes. Some of this stuff is to do with MacBytes. Some of it is to do with Munich, which is a site that I run dedicated to the Munich air disaster in 1958. So this one and this one actually should belong to that, but I don't have a collection called that at the moment. I don't have that collection. As it happens, both of those elements, those assets, have the word Munich in them. So what I could do is make a different type of collection, this time a smart collection. When you create a smart collection, you get to give it criteria upon which it will automatically populate with content. So this one at the moment says Untitled Smart Collection. I'm going to call that Munich Smart Collection. And then I need to give it some criteria, some way of deciding, does this belong in this collection or not? And the title contains Munich would work. So let's do that. That's all I need to do with it. Title contains Munich, and then save that. It creates my smart collection, different icon. That's how you know it's a smart collection, with the name I gave it. And it has picked out the 2 files that had Munich in the title instantly. If I go back to here, these items are also still available in my manually created collection. Now, if you've got any experience at all with digital asset management, your head should be spinning now and you'll be thinking, wow, because it means you can keep your stuff wherever you like, physically in your collections, and pull them together via a smart collection. So that's the objective with a smart collection. So I've got lots of MacBytes things in here, as you will see. Not all of them start with MacBytes. Some of them do, most of them do, to be honest. But sometimes MacBytes is a word on its own. Sometimes it's in with MacBytes Learning. For the MacBytes stuff, I would probably create a collection with them. That's what I'd probably do with that. But I'm showing you how incredibly flexible it is, and you get to decide how you organise your assets. Now, at the moment, let's see, what else can we do? What can we do? Let's say I wanted all of my Affinity Designer files. Let's see if we can do that one. So, new smart collection. This one would be Affinity Designer. Now, how on earth am I going to work that out? They're all going to have different names, so the title won't help, will it? Maybe some of the other things would help. So, is GIF, is this, is that. If the file format you want, thankfully it is, Affinity Designer, is in here, then you will be able to filter by document type and create a smart collection from your documents. So it's a little bit like the built-in collections, which doesn't have Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo. You can make your own. And what's supported in here is all the file formats that Pixave supports. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. So we are going to go for Affinity Designer and save that. And I now have another smart collection with all of these files in it. And these are all Affinity Designer files. Just to show you, there's that file there. That's at 100%, but we can zoom in. There we go. In here, once I go into this view, we've looked at the interface, but we looked at the interface in the management view. In this view, you can do other things. So you can change the zoom level at the top by choosing a different zoom. So there's 100%. You can zoom out, you can zoom in, and you can zoom to 100% with the button there. You can also zoom to fit, which it's not doing. It's not doing. Probably the file type that's doing that. You can also save as from here. So save as another file format, and you can share from here. You can print. You can also open it with the application. So when I click on it, it shows me all of the applications that could open this file. Now, Affinity from Serif, just because it's an Affinity Designer file doesn't mean you can't open it in Affinity Photo. And as you can see, I've got the beta installed as well. So it's offering me the 3 applications on this machine that could open that file. And I'll choose Affinity Designer, and it will open up that file in Affinity Designer. And there it is. So that's what that looks like. They're actually tickets for our Christmas concert. You're probably a little bit too remote to be wanting to buy one, but we've done them in white, in red and black. They're being done as individual tickets, and then they're laid out on artboards that are A4 size ready for printing. If you're interested in Affinity Designer, they're also using one symbol to do that with. But that's for another day when we talk about Affinity Designer. But that's the file in Affinity Designer, and that's the level of fidelity that you have previewing it in Pixave, which used a smart collection. So we've managed to do smart collections in there. Now, another thing I had, so I'm going to go back up to all. We looked at the search, but it was only briefly. It was very briefly. Let's see what it can do with MacBytes. And it's bringing back all of the files that have MacBytes in. You'll notice it's the file name, but it's not limited itself to when it's just MacBytes on its own, and the capitalization doesn't matter either. So it's found MacBytes where it's in with MacBytes Learning and where it's on its own. And that is a global search that you have to be able to do that. Now, you can also, so let's go back into some of these here. Let's bring back our panel. Right, let's choose some of these. You can also in here apply tags. And when we looked at the tags, these are the tags that we've got in here. Now, this one is not my library. So we have no tags. There were tags in my library, but there's no tags in this library. And now we have Munich elements. I don't really need to tag these things as Munich because they've got Munich in. This smart collection is looking for Munich in the title. But what if I've got a file that belongs there? It belongs to, well, I'd like it in my Munich collection, and it doesn't have Munich in there. And I have actually got some of these. Now I'm frantically looking for them because I shoved them all over, didn't I? It was that one there, which says song sheet, and I think there was another one. But it's this song sheet that belongs with it. It doesn't say Munich song sheet. I've got two options. If I renamed it to Munich song sheet, it would appear. So that's my first thing. That's the first thing I can do. And I would do that in the image info, and I would type in Munich song sheet. Now I've done it, and I go to my smart collection, it's automatically appeared. If I wanted to make a collection a different way, then that's where tags come into it. Tags are very flexible. I did that to show you smart collections before we looked at tags, but if I was doing this for real, I would use tags. So what I will do here is, I've got this selected. I'm going to go to the tag option in here, and it says no tags. There are no tags to select either. But down at the bottom, it says search or add tag. So I'm going to put in there Munich. That's created my tag, and it has assigned it. So if I look at that, I have a very tiny, oh boy, it's tiny, little T in the corner, it's tagged. This one, not tagged. But if I go in and put a tick in there, that should tag that. And if I go in, no, it's not getting a T. Tell me that's what that T means. It should definitely do that. Oh, you're not assigned, are you? I need to click that. That's better. Now it's tagged. Onto my movie, click on there, click yes, and now all three are tagged. Let's go and make another smart collection. So, new smart collection. But this time, I'm not going to rely on the title. I am going to rely on a tag. Where the tag is or contains, doesn't matter, you might have Munich. You might have more than one tag that starts with Munich. But we'll have where the tag is Munich. And I'll put there Munich tagged files for the name of it. And OK. And now, in my smart collection, I've got those. In my Munich tagged, I have those. Now, that looks the same, doesn't it? But remember, this one wasn't originally called Munich. I didn't want it called Munich. It was just called the song sheet. To make that work, I had to call it Munich. Now I'm renaming it back to song sheet. It's fine in the tagged smart collection, but if I go back to my Munich smart collection, it's no longer got the word Munich in it, so it's gone. So that is the difference in smart collections, same feature, but working in a different way, working with tags. So I've tagged those files. I would then go through all of these and tag these if they were relevant. So I can tell here that this one and this one and this one and this one are all to do with MacBytes. That's to do with MacBytes. That's to do with MacBytes. So's that. And these. Let's leave it at that. Let's just say those. In my tags, I don't want them tagged Munich. I need to add a new tag. So I will add a new tag of MacBytes. That adds that there. As I click it and hit the tick, it applies it. They are now tagged. And I could then go and do a smart collection if that was what I wanted to do. I could do that as well. So tagging, incredibly powerful. You're not limited to tagging it with just one word. You can tag it as many times as you like. You can have as many tags as you like. And the last thing over here on the right is that we have metadata. And I've got multiple things selected. So let's just select one and you can see the actual metadata that you've got there too. Right, you could also in here, so let's go back over here. We have, let's see what we can do in there. Right, I've got some images here like this one, this one. This is mainly to do with photographs, I think, to be honest. So I'm going to go and get those baby animals because they're just adorable. Right, so this one, this is gorgeous. I'm a dog person myself though, so that one's even better. What I'm going to do is rate them, and I have ratings available from the right-hand side, and he's a definite 4. He would be a 5, but, well, the dog's a 5, but it's a little bit dark. But that one's amazingly awesome, so I'll rate that as a 5, and I'm going to rate that cat. So let's rate him as a 5, and that's gorgeous. That actually looks more like my dog, my dog who died a couple of years ago, but he looked like that. He looked like a little fox. So what I would have there, I would rate that as a 5 as well. Anything that you do in here to rate these images, you can use the ratings in your smart collections. So you can search for ratings, you can do all that kind of stuff that you need to do. Okay, we've been told Marcus is heading off. Good to have you with us, Marcus. Hopefully you'll catch up with the video later. Right, you can also label these things. So if you've used Bridge, if you've used Lightroom, if you've used Aperture, this should all be very familiar to you, that you can colour code these images. I sometimes do that when I'm working with, say, I'm looking for an image of a lion. And I've got these 3. I don't want to tag them all in any kind of way. I just want to say, do you know what? Quickly just make those red. And they've now got red on there. I've actually got the wrong one there, haven't I? Let me choose him and make him red as well. Right, he's red as well now. Again, you can filter with it, but really it's just a quick way for me to glance at it and think these were the ones I was going to choose from. And then you can go in, you can change that, or you can take it away. Doesn't matter at all. So you've got that available from there. You can also enter a note in here if you want. You can put your copyright information in here. And it even tells you where it's from, the actual URL that came from. And you can click to go to the website. If I did that, what it would do is actually download that file again. So it's a good way if you've edited it and thought, I've edited that and I need the original. You can actually just click there and go and get another copy and it will download it for you. So the amount of metadata it keeps in here is pretty amazing. Right, I wanted to show you PDFs. So let's go get a PDF. We had a PDF in here. Oh, that's only got 1 page in. That's not great, is it? But we'll do it anyway. When you open a PDF, you have extra options in here. So if it did have multiple pages, you would see all of your thumbnails listed in there for your PDFs, and you can choose to work with them in there. You've got all of the other options available as well, and you can even export it. So if I hit on the export option at the bottom, have a rare old think about it. You going to do it for me? You're cranking up hard drives or something? Oh, never mind. We'll come back to it if you like. Right. I can also click that little thing at the bottom, little disclosure triangle. And what that's giving me is the other elements in that collection. So I don't even have to navigate backwards and forwards. I can actually just go into there and do that. Now, while we're in here, right, we need to look at exporting some of these things, don't we? Well, one of the things I can do is share. So I could actually airdrop one of these. Let's get that song sheet and let's send it to Droplr. And it's uploading it to Droplr. It's put that on my clipboard, I hope. So what I'm doing is, on another page, I'm going to check that that's on my clipboard. It is, and so you can have a look at it. I'm going to go to the chat and I'm going to paste in a link to that. And if you're watching later, somebody remind me to put that in the comments for the video after, that you will be able to get that file. So literally within seconds, I can get a file from within Pixave up to the web and shared with you guys very, very quickly. We've seen the other things that this can do in terms of printing out and all the rest of it, so I won't waste any time with that. But I will show you the exporting that we've got here. Now, I'm going to start with this movie file. which is a very short movie file. It looks a bit ropey, I'll grant you, but there again, it is quite old. This is 10 years old, this video, but it is a video in there, and you can see that I can actually play it. Now, you won't be able to hear that, or I hope you won't, but if you are, I'm talking over it. But this is just a little clip that I did for this Munich memorial, and it's very, very short. Actually, it's that short. I could probably do this with the whole thing, right? But what I will do here is show you that you have another option, which is you can create an animated GIF straight from within here. So I hit the GIF option and it gives me this overlay underneath. This enables me to set an in point and an out point. So I'm going to just set that in point a little bit there. We'll knock the first second off. And at the end, let's knock a couple of seconds off the end. When we get past the United, we'll knock that end off there. So it's going to stop there. I can change the size of it if I want. I can go in and make it 50% of the size, but we'll leave it set to 100. And I will create that. And I'm going to put that on my desktop. And I'm just going to call it Munich 2007. And save it there. And now I have that animated GIF there. So if I were to preview that, you can see now it's a GIF, but actually it's an animated GIF. So it's part of my video turned into an animated GIF. Now it'll work on Twitter. So if you need something like that for social media, that's amazingly quick to do that. And it's playing in a loop there. Now, what I would like to do, I didn't do this in rehearsals, but I do like to live dangerously. So let's have a dabble with it. I will add that into here. So I'm going to add it into my new collections. It's got the word Munich in it. So which of these will it appear in? Will it appear in my Smart Collection, Munich Smart Collection, or my Munich Tagged? Well, it should appear in my Smart Collection, and it does. It tells me that that is a GIF at the top. But it won't appear in my Tagged because it's not tagged yet. So those are the distinction between how you make that. Whether you need to tag it first or whether you're going to rely on the file name. So at the moment, it's in there. There it is. Right, so having got it there, and it's selected, I'd like to share that on Droplr as well. So I quickly do that. That will put it on my clipboard. I'm going to quickly go and check I've got the right thing on the clipboard and then paste that into the chat. I think it's uploading them as zips, which isn't helpful. Again, I'll try and remember to put that in for the people watching on the video. But that's how easy it is to create one and share one. It's amazing. Now, I've got in here all those blurred backgrounds, haven't I? Right. If what I wanted to do was take some of my blurred backgrounds, or even actually, no, it's better with the animals, isn't it? No, can't you tell I'm crazy about animals? Better with all my animals. There's my animals there. You can actually export these things as well. So why might you want to export it? Let's do why we might want to export it first. So I'm going to open up him in there. Right, you can in here make changes. It's so far been digital asset management, but you are not limited. You can actually make a few changes. So I'm going to close that. We're concentrating on this little chappy here. And down in the bottom, you have what looks like a little teardrop. I'm going to click on there. Are you going to let me do anything? Come on. You're not doing anything. What are you doing? Never mind. I'm going to go up here and do it with edit image and add some markup to it. I'm going to change this image. It's opened it up for me in a markup window. Now, if you have got iOS 11 and you have saved a screenshot, this should look very familiar because Apple have added something that looks very similar to this in terms of you can mark up screenshots that you've taken on iOS. And this will allow you to do a similar kind of thing. So I can squiggle. I can draw around him. And you see what's happening as I do with that. It's got, in fact, if I try doing it, it's like the face is gorgeous, isn't it? Let's do that. It converts it to a circle for me. So it's intelligent as well. I can start off with squares and things if I want. I can move these around. I can scale them. Scale them at the side, etc. Even though I've clicked away, they remain editable at this stage. So I can actually select them and press the delete key to get rid of them. And you've got all kinds of things in here. You can add some text if you want. All right, so that one happens to be an Arctic fox. You've also got in here signatures. That was the best I could manage, I'm afraid. I should have done better than that, shouldn't I? But it's not bad. It nearly looks like mine. So I can add a signature in that way as well. Now, at this stage, what am I doing? I need to save this, don't I? Because I want to export it. I want you guys to see it. So I'm going to hit done. That has changed my file. Was that a good idea? Remember I talked about the file I might need to re-download? Well, now I've ruined it. I might need to re-download it. Because even the thumbnail has updated. And when I go back in, even if I go back in to markup, I can carry on marking up all right. Add a bigger circle to it if you like. What I can't do anymore, I can select that one, but this one won't let me. That's burnt in. I can't do a thing with it now. And if I save again, I've now got more circles on top of my poor fox. But the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed up here, I have an extra button. I have a filing cabinet. What's in the filing cabinet? So I'm going to click on that, and that shows me all my versions. It shows me the latest version. It shows me the version before. So when I said all my versions, it shows me 2 of them. Unfortunately, it does not show me the original. Fear not. If I opt to restore the original, do you want to restore it? I certainly do. I've made a complete mess of that. There we go. I can restore the original. I don't need to worry about it. If I go into there, I am on my original, and I have 2 versions. If I want, so I go into my markup, and let's say I just want on that a signature at the bottom. Just want a signature at the bottom. And done to that. I get another version of it. So now I have 3 versions. Again, none of them are my original, but it's okay. I can still go back and restore that original. The original is still there. So once you make a change to it, you have versioning enabled as well. Now in here, I am going to choose the version with my signature, which is that one. So I'm going to click on that button there, and that will revert to it. I do want you to go back to that one with my signature on it. That's why you might want to export files from here as well. So we don't need that anymore. We've done all of that. And there you are, Iceland and my fox. And I'm just going to drag and drop that out into there. And where have you put it? Where have you disappeared to? You're definitely in here under Iceland, weren't you? There you are. And the one that I've exported just by dragging and dropping it actually has my signature on it. Now, that's a great way to export stuff if you're only exporting one. But what if you wanted to do all kinds of magic things with all of these files? Right, so I've got them all selected. I'm going to go up to File and down to Export. This way I can export multiple files at the same time. So I hit the Export option and I have all of these files here selected, and it's saying Export 7, Export Settings selected, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean Export Settings? What are Export Settings? Interesting. Well, when I go into there, I have recipes in a way. These are presets. And what it's doing is it's going to save out those images in 7 different ways. It's going to save the original format with the original size and the file name. And it's going to do a JPEG of original size and one that fits 1024 by 1024 and a 50%. And the original size is in PNG. So you can see it's going to export an awful lot of graphics. But if you don't want one, so if I don't want the, let's have a look at that PNG and that PNG. If you don't want them, you can turn them off from here and export those. And I will make a new folder and I will call that exported so we can see how many it's exported. And there. Now I can put it in subfolder format if I want. So you could use your collection names and your entire collection hierarchy to create a folder structure on your Mac. You can also elect to send out your metadata, export the tags, for certain formats where that is supported. So I'll leave that and say export those. Now, once it's done, we'll have a look at the images, but you would need to know for the export where on earth those export presets came from. There were 7 of them. They were all selected by default, but you didn't create any of them. They were in there to start with. So while it's finishing sorting itself out here, shouldn't be long. They were reasonably big images, those. They were, a good few megapixels. They were around the 5,000, 6,000 pixels. Right, I'm going to shrink this back a little bit, move that, and there is my exported folder. And what's happening right now, the little cloud icons are telling me that that is uploading to iCloud as well. I do like to stress my system somewhat, because my desktop and documents are synchronizing to iCloud as well. But if we go on here, you can see I've got different sizes. That one's bigger than the other one, and they're different formats as well. So little cat, and there's also a very big quality difference. That one's very fuzzy, whereas that one is much, much sharper. If you look around the whiskers on the left-hand side, very fuzzy to very sharp. So it has exported them, but how did it do that? How did it choose the formats? And what can you do about that? Right, so I'm going to go to File. No, I'm not going to Pixave and Preferences. And in here, Export was an option. And these are the 7 export presets that you have. What I'm going to do is to create another one. So I'm going to add an export preset. I want these in PNG format. So there's my original size PNG there. We'll have them the original size. And what I'll put here is, because this will all make more sense shortly, my prefix will be watermarked. I'm going to add a watermark to this. I'm going to have it do it automatically. Right, what I want it to do, show a watermark. I need to add a watermark. Now, to add a watermark, I need to complete this up here. So my watermark's going to be signature. And I need to choose where I want it. So I can have it in the lower right, but you've also got all of these other points to which you could add it. So I'll choose the lower right there. And I probably don't want it at 100%. Let's try 50. But at the moment, I don't have the file. I need to drag and drop an image to that. So what I'm doing here is I am looking for my images, which are on my desktop. And I had in my folder, so here's a Finder window, I had down here watermarks, and I had 2 watermarks. One is a copyright symbol, and the other is my signature, which we've already seen. And I'm going for signature at the moment. So I will drag and drop that there. That is quite large, but it should work on these images. And I'll save that. I'm going to make one more. I will do this as a PNG. We'll have it at the original size. We'll do exactly the same. And this time I'll put copyrighted as my prefix to it. I will add a watermark, but not the signature. You'll notice it's retained that. So once you've created one, it becomes part of it. But I actually want another one. And this one is copyright. And I want this right in the middle. And I'm going to go and get my image, which is over there, which is that one. And that one's quite small. That's quite small, and it's already at 50%, so I might take that down a little bit, maybe 80%, but it doesn't need to go down that much or we won't see it at all. So let's take it down to 80 and save that. So now, when I come to export, I should have 9 options. I'm not going to need them all, but let's come out of here, go back into export, and you're saying 7 selected. You are, because I've turned 2 off. If I turn everything back on, it says 9. I actually don't want all of these. I only want the bottom ones. But the good news is it remembers them. So if you're constantly working with those 2 watermarked ones, once you've turned them off, it will remember that until next time. OK to that, export to that. I will put these in a new folder within exported called watermarked, if I could spell it. And export there. So it is now going to export those. What I'm doing, I will bring this on here. Let's go and get it back to my desktop in exported, and it was in a folder called watermarked. And there it is. And they are appearing as I speak. Exporting cat at the moment. So there it is. So as these come out, I will preview some of them. That one should work reasonably well. If that's the, there's the one in the middle. You can see how big these images are because it's really quite tiny in the middle. So I probably would have made the copyright a little bit bigger. But there's that one. Let's move through these in the background. There's the little kitten. There's the other kitten. Let's try and find one with my signature on. I think they're coming through last. Somewhere there will be one. We can't see it on that one. There it is. There it is at the bottom. So that one was 50%. So you can see it probably could take with being even less than that. But there it is. And it's exported a lot. So let's toggle that off, go through them all. You can see the signature changes depending on the size of the image. So pro tip with that, try and do that when they're all the same size. Export them out all at the same size, or work on images that are the same size to get the best from that. But that is not only the fact that you can export into different formats, but you can export with watermarks on there as well as that. Right, I'm going to go back into my presentation and wrap up. Okay, so I love Pixave. I hope you get that from me covering it. As I said, it is available from the App Store. It is $14.99. It is a complete bargain. The more you use it, the more useful it will be to you. The biggest thing to understand is the structure of it. So I've got two examples here. I've got landscapes, which could be a folder. Sunsets could be a folder. And then within that, I've separated out my landscape sunsets into those taken in the UK and those taken in the US. Your organisational units within Pixave are libraries, folders, collections and smart collections. And how you organise your content is up to you. In this example, I would have gone for a folder for landscapes, a folder for sunsets, and then two collections for UK and the US. But whether I do that or not depends on how I perceive my collection of images to be, because I could use exactly the same images but have a completely different structure. In this case, I want all my UK images together. UK could actually be a library if you wanted. It could be a library of its own of UK images. Or it could be a folder. Within that, I'd have a folder of landscapes, and then I have sunsets and churches within there. So it's completely up to you. It's your entire choice. Your entire choice. Then we looked at tags. Tags are amazingly powerful. You can use those to base your collections on, your smart collections. You can also use them to search images, and you can do exactly the same with the ratings in there too. And the colours as well, which I didn't actually get a chance to show you, but you can use that with the colours. So as I said, it is only $14.99 from the App Store. Highly recommend. Can highly recommend that application. I've actually moved most of my stuff from Bridge and iPhoto. I didn't take my stuff from iPhoto to Photos because I didn't really like it, so I took it over to Pixave. The reason I've gone back and decided to look at Pixave on the Mac is because Pixave is out for iPad, and I think it's good on the Mac. On the iPad, it's amazing. It's amazing to me just to have access to my assets from my desktop. Actually, from my desktop straight through to the iPad. Everything that you've seen here tonight on this session, we will look at the same assets on my iPad in the next session. If you want to get a head start on that, Pixave for iPad is currently available at $7.99 from the App Store, the iOS App Store. And as I said, there is a live session. If you want to watch that live, keep an eye on the channel. You can subscribe for notifications. It will tell you just about when I am about to go live, but it is going to be 8 o'clock UK time tomorrow, which is noon PST. If you can't make it, or you miss it, or you just want to watch again, then go to youtube.com/ElaineGiles, and that's my channel. And you will find there not only these videos, but videos for lots of other applications, mainly design, but I also cover Office and all kinds of other things. So as I've said, the next session that will follow on from this session, so we will be looking at, it's not going to be just a repeat of today. It's going to be all the iPad specific things, and you will be looking at my iPad on the screen. I'll be looking at my hand wandering over my iPad as well on a picture-in-picture. And as I say, that is tomorrow at 8 PM UK time. But thank you very much for being here and being with me in this session. If you have any comments or queries, or you've got a request for something you'd like covered, then get in touch with me. You can find me at all those locations. Pretty much wherever you go, I am Elaine Giles. Apart from YouTube, where I'm the Elaine Giles. Don't ask, it's a very long story. But apparently, now on YouTube, I'm Elaine Giles as well. So I'm dual personality on there, but you will find me. You will find me, I promise. And I love to hear from people. So let me know if you enjoyed it. Did I miss anything out? Should I do another session? Let me know. I need to know these things. I absolutely need to know these things. So what I'm going to do now is go into Q&A with the people who are on live and take some questions from you and hopefully provide some answers. You never know. You never know. Until next time, I will see you next time.